squeaking in the background. That's the compressor doing that. Along with most of the rattle in here. The high-pitched squeak is the bearing. Still producing air. And you hear it popping off, so still doing its job, but it's not long for the world the way it is. One easy way to check, see if the compressor making a noise, is take the load off. Got no load on it, doesn't rattle, compressor's dead. You can test your T80 just by putting your finger over the end and it should start popping off pretty quick. So that's pretty definitive, it's a bad compressor. The question of how long the compressor would last was answered this morning. Heard one big clunk and all the rattling stopped, and there's what the end result was. It froze up and then Bowden just twisted the pulley apart. My T80 crashed and burned, and I'm going to go ahead and repair it. I think I have the proper part for it. If my diagnosis is correct, the part that went wrong is the eccentric bearing. Motor shaft goes through the hole in the center, spins the bottom part, and when it spins the bottom part, makes the bearing go up and down, and that's the eccentric, like a crankshaft that the diaphragm is hooked to. I'm going to remove the snorkel first, just to get it out of the way because it's in the way. On my particular one, the snorkel is attached here at this point, so I'm going to remove that screw. It's got a screw on this side holding it on, which goes all the way through. Comes out the other side over here. So we'll remove both of those, then the snorkel should be free and just come right on off. You may have a different style snorkel, maybe configured different. This is on an older keying. Looks like this screw's been bent one time. Got a little bit of a wobble to it. Got the nut loose, everything's loose, but I may have to thread this back out. This crook is what's keeping it from coming out. There we go. We'll put it aside and replace that when we put it back together. We're going to leave this on the motor plate because it's a lot more rigid, less prone to move around, it's easier to work with. So we'll leave it bolted on here till later on. We're going to have to take it loose when we put a new pulley on it because it shredded the pulley when it locked up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out head bolts here. In this particular case there's 6 of them. You're going to be real careful, don't strip them the pattern on the top out. So use the proper sized screwdriver to do this with. I'm going to use a power screwdriver. The reason is if I set it down to almost to the drill position, it'll act like an impact if things don't want to turn. The other thing it'll do is I'm able to really push down on the top to make sure that I don't slip. And that one popped loose. That one popped loose. That one popped loose. That one's loose. Now the only problem I have is how to get into the ones where the fins are taller. I'll see. I'm going to have to do those by hand. It's not a real problem getting the right screwdriver for this because the ones you always lose are the small ones. So I just happen to have the right one here. I'm going to push down hard. Oh boy! I can see it's a whole lot easier with the drill. I'm going to have to get me another screw bit that's longer that will fit that so I can do it with the drill. Okay, I was able to take just a 1/4 inch extension, chuck it in the drill. I've got a 1/4 inch drill bit, or 1/4 inch socket wrench, and that fits the shank of the screwdriver perfectly. So now we should be able to reach those back to. Press down good and hard. And that broke it loose just like that. Do the same thing. That one broke loose, so everything's loose. We're going to back the screws out just a little ways because the head's tight because it hadn't been off probably since it was assembled in the factory. Just going to back up 1/8 of an inch or so on each screw. Then what we'll do is we'll use compressed air, hook it into the outlet, and it should just pop the head right off. This is why we didn't take screws all the way out. I'd just as soon it pop a little way off, like 1/8 of an inch, instead of all the way out and hit me in the head. This might be exciting. I've never done this before, so I may not have enough pressure yet to do it. Doesn't appear like it. Also, as luck would have it, it's the wrong quick disconnect. It's sealed good, so we'll let pressure build up. We'll try it again. The other way, might try just wrap it a couple of times with a rubber mallet or something here on the side of the head and see if it'll pop it loose that way. But we'll try it this way first. Got about 50 pounds of pressure in there. If that doesn't do it, we'll go all over to plan B. There's a pop-off's right here. And I won't be able to put much more than that in it anyway. pop off, and it's loose. See it move now. It worked. And the pop off works because it popped off too. So we'll go ahead and turn the compressor off and then continue on. Now we just take all these screws out now, all the way. Now we should be able to just lift the head right off. And there it is. Here's the head assembly itself, disassembled. If you notice in the bottom there, number 24 is a plate. There's a reed valve above that, then a gasket, then the head. If we look over here, there's the 4 screws of the plate. If we remove that plate underneath, that'll be the reed valve, the gasket, and the head. What I want to do right now is go ahead and remove the plate with the reed valves here. Taking the same precautions, we don't want to strip out any heads. I'm going to use a power screwdriver with the proper size bit and pressure, and I'll start each one of them out. Okay, I've got them all started, so I'll finish them out by hand. Then this plate should come off, allow me to take the diaphragm off. We'll come back to the reed valves and what to do with them a little later. Maybe I need to take the reed valves off also, so we'll go ahead and loosen those. Being careful not to lose any parts. There's the reed valves. They can be turned over and reused. Now the only thing that should be holding this together now should be just the suction of it being stuck and glued to that diaphragm, and there it came out. We'll just leave that on diaphragm for now. Take a look at the drawing here again. And you'll see the bearing caps on each side. The number 21 on the left, 21 on the right. The screws for the bearing caps come in from the bottom. So now what I have to do is it's time to take the T80 off the base. I'm through doing everything I can, and all the hard screws are now loose, so it shouldn't be a problem. So I'll just go ahead and pop it off of its base now. This isn't particularly exciting to watch. It's just 4 bolts holding it down. But you want to be careful anytime you loosen the bolts on the T80, especially if you don't have a rubber pad under it. Most of them have a rubber pad under them, so when you tighten it down, the T80 sits on a rubber pad. But if you tighten the bolts down too tight, you'll strip and break out the pot metal in the base of the T80. So just be careful whenever you deal with those. There is a way to repair them. I'd have to have a broken one to show you, but I successfully repaired one a while back. Okay, now you can see the bearing cap bolts underneath. But be careful, because these walls are real thin. When you tighten them down, you can fracture them, and most people just throw them away. But they are repairable. I'm going to use the same procedure I used with getting the head bolts loose. Make sure I got plenty of pressure down, and they started. Just about need a longer screwdriver bit than what I have. That one won't reach down, so I'll have to use the extension socket like I did earlier. Just a 1/4 inch extension, 1/4 inch socket. Then the screwdriver bit fits right in the socket. This process lets you have plenty of pressure down so that you don't slip in the head of the screw and mess up the head of the screw. They're all loose. Finish taking them off with by hand. That ought to let the connecting rod assembly bearings all come out the top. This is what happened to what feels like this is what happened to the pulley when the whole thing disintegrated. That bearing's loose. Their cap assembly didn't come loose from the shaft. The shaft is what's holding it in now. I just shook a little bit and the whole assembly came apart. I've got bearings here which don't feel good on that side. The bearing on this side's okay. This one just feels real bad. Looks like crap, around rusted. The eccentric, the expensive one that I bought, is okay. So the bearing that's bad is this one over here. We don't have anything left inside. It's all the guts of works right here. See, it spins, shaft spins and lifts this piece up and down. I need 3 hands to demonstrate it. I turn it upside down. You can see the shaft moves up and down this way. So if the shaft was stationary, it'd be moving this piece up and down. So what we need to do now is go ahead and pull this in bearing and cap off. So this one spins good, it's free. This one you can hear. Pop this little cap off. The bearing really feels bad. I'll need a puller to pull that off the shaft. I looked at the other end. The other end has a number on it. It's an 8202Z. So might be able to find that locally. I don't know if we can see this on the screen or not. There's a number there at the bearing. It says it's an 8202Z. That's the wrong bearing. Number's right there. So we'll see if we can come up with something locally.